Hello, everybody. Jason Meyer here. Pardon a little awkward wide shot. Again, we're experimenting with cameras and stuff. This is the show, the most complex, and we believe we know the equipment we need to clean this up. So it's going to take us a few weeks, maybe a month to get it. But in the meantime, we can make do with what we have. I hope everybody's doing well. Today, I thought I would return to a study I started last week. And in particular today, what I want to do is mix some greens. And I want to mix some greens that go from near to far. So let's see what we have and if we're okay. So we've got just a close-up of a painting. And again, it's relatively small. My hand, slightly overexposed. I tried to fix that. Oh, I may try that again because that's bothering me. Anyway, we'll keep our eye on that. And then we got a wide shot there to keep an eye on the palette. How did that get that turned off? Bumps and bruises. Anyway, we'll be pro with this before you know it. Be pro before you know it. So that's what we've got on the agenda today. So I'm going to quit bragging about my camera skills and let's just lay some of this paint out and get to mixing. Again, you can see that the painting has so much green in it. And so we need green verticals, which are going to be darker than the green horizontals across the bottom. And, of course, we have the orange and purple, blue. But today I'm going to focus on mixing those greens and just see how much distance I can get. How much distance I can get. So it's going to be basically darker, richer to lighter, greener. Does that sound good to you guys? All right. So again, I'm using some strange colors. I sometimes, especially when I'm doing these studies, I like to experiment, go through things I have that I might not have used to see what's happening. But we're going to have burnt umber. And how might I use burnt umber? Make sure we're on the, yeah. How might I use burnt umber with a green? What would that do for us? It would neutralize it without lightening it, right? Darken it and neutralize it, like a green shadow going into a dark shadow. Get some oil out of that. And then this you could see, this could add yellow to our green. This with black would give us a green. Um, would that in purple give us a green? Yellow and red, no. That'd probably be more of an orangey than a green. Or white. So if you have any questions about darker, richer, lighter, grayer, now's the time to ask or to hang in there and see what happens because that is exactly what we're going to be doing today. Darker, richer to lighter, grayer. And then we got a Terra Verde. Pronontigo? I don't know. See if you can see that. But it turned out to be a really nice cool green, which I think is going to make good for that. But it is very weak. It is very weak, so we need a big pile of it. But for this gray day that we have here, and then we got the manganese violet. We'll have to get a pools going on my pronunciations each day. Let's see, and we're still on camera, so we're doing good. Let's go this way with our black. And then we have some Marroget. Look at that nice new tube of Marroget. Thank you, thank you. You know who you are. You know who you are. Let's see how this is coming out. Ooh, look at that. Very nice. All right. So if you've never used Marroget and you want to try it, go for it. It's delightful. It's expensive, and it can. Some people think it's smelly. It does have an odor. It can give you a headache, but just work in a well-ventilated room. After you get used to it, I kind of like it. Kind of like the smell. But that's just me. So here we go. All right. So we got Susan and Tom. How are you guys doing? Good to see you. So today we're going to work on mixing some greens for the study we started. I'm going to try to do really near to far. And we have upright greens, which are the trees, which are going to be darker. And then the horizontal greens are the greens across the ground, and those will be lighter. If you're not sure what I'm talking about on that, John Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting is a book like about it, and it talks all about the angles and the angles of the sun and the light to what it's hitting, and therefore values. But if you're going to be a landscape painter, that is a must book. A must book. All right. Susan and Tom, are we ready? Now remember, this green is very weak. Actually, let's see. I need to oil this out. Let's start right. Let's get this thing wet so we can see the true values. Okay, how's everybody holding up on our marathon session here? I know it's a big push, but sometimes a big push is what it takes. And we all have an opportunity for, a lot of us anyway, have the opportunity for a big push right now. So let's take it. Man, you can tell I want to paint. No, you're oiling out, Jason. Stop it. I'm anxious. I'm anxious to get into that paint. So not too much, but that gamma saw, some thinner. And then even without using the gamma saw, you can notice that the more I work my Marroget, the thinner it gets. Where are you going? Ooh, that released some spice. That released a little spice. Spice into the air. All right, I think we're good here. So let's see what that does for us. Hey, it's my co-pilot. What are you doing on the ground? Ah! All right. We We got to keep our heads. We got to keep our heads. So let's look at this painting here. And so watch what happens as I oil this out. Can you see, look how much darker that went. So, and that's why we oiled this out. What if I tried to mix up for that blue? Ooh, that would have been wrong. Well, not wrong. I mean, it might work in this scenario, but that's not what's down there right now. Now, again, especially if you're going to work on these um, too many times, you got to be really careful about when you oil out like this with just the medium that you don't get, you got to stay really thin, is what I'm saying. You got to stay thin. If you get too much of it on there going through, it's kind of like you're looking through a film of something, which is exactly what they're doing, but you don't want them to be aware that the film's so thick, right? It's like any air that you could cut with a knife, and you generally don't want to be breathing that unless it's just moisture. All right, how did that change things a little bit? A little bit, huh? Little bit. All right, I'm just gonna take off any excess we have, make sure it's really rubbed into the crevices. And remember, the finish, when we finish something like this, we want to finish not across like I'm doing now, but up and down. So if I make a brush stroke like this and it leaves a ridge, that ridge will catch any light coming down. But if I do that and there's a ridge, although it'll catch a little light, usually the light on a painting is coming down, it won't catch it like that going. So that's the reason for that. And it's too early for ridges. It's too early for ridges. Okay, we happy with that? Are we happy? Why would we not be happy? What's not to be happy about? Okay, so now we get to start mixing our paint up. And like I said, today is primarily about the greens for me. We want to darken that up. Let's darken it up, but try to keep it as green as we can. So black will do that. Ooh, and I actually like that quite a bit. So our shadow greens. Again, it's easy to lighten things up. Oops. All right, all right. I know. I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. Back at the palette. I'm an introvert trying to stream. Trying to stream. How much of that do we need? We probably don't need very much of that. Then what about a green? Instead of black, a little bit of umber, which is more red. Look at that, umber just takes over. Takes over. That could be good at like the base of the trees and stuff where we need a smooth transition. Okay, and then we're so if I need a little bit darker than this, just gonna get a little bit of that. So right between here and there, but I generally want clean steps so that they read, especially at the beginning. So if we say that's there, then so we have very yellow green here. What could we get the same value as that yellow green, but make it look quite different? What might that be? And again, I'm using this pigment is very weak. This is a very high-end pigment or manufacturer, so it's not that it's filled with filler. It's just the actual pigment is weak. So it takes a lot more of this when mixed with other things in order to get the right measure. Okay, well, what if we added gray on this side? Case in point, look how that gray just dominated that. That was probably more gray than I wanted. So I'll just get a little bit of it. Because I was thinking, now this could compare with that yellow green. And it's still a little bit darker than that yellow. It's pretty easy to fix. Okay, because part of this, what we're mixing up is we're seeing how many ways can we separate green? Well, green is made of yellow and blue. Yellow and blue make green. This is the yellow we're working with. Our black is acting as our blue. So yellow and black will make green, right? Green, obviously, is green. And then we'll have to see what color we want for our infinity color. And then we can gray off with the infinity color. See, I don't know. Is there any room for any of that? That's a pretty warm green. Pretty warm green. Would that act as shadow somewhere? What if we grade that off a touch? What if we grade that off a touch? I could see that doing some good kind of underneath in the background, maybe poking through. Okay, any green questions? Any questions on green? No? Okay. So let's see what we have. See what we have. All right. So right now I'm not going to switch back and forth. I'm going to leave it on this little bit wider shot so you can see both. And then we'll go close up as I start painting a little more. See, I don't even know if I really want that dark green in there anywhere. I mean, that's sitting back a little bit. I don't know if I want it that dark. But let's just see. If it's anywhere, it would be up front. You know, maybe some of this green is in shadow. And just like those horses this morning, those horse legs, that dark that we wanted to get it off the object, maybe there could be some shadow green that was really dark that merges into his sweater. Maybe. Right, again, and the idea mainly is you need something strong to go weak. So we need good strong values up front, and that'll make it easier for us to go weaker and grayer in the background. Okay. So to me, that felt like that pulled that forward a bit, right? Just merging those two shapes. What if just around the light on his shoulder back here, some of that dark green kind of highlighted that shoulder light. And I don't know if we want that much light there on that shoulder or not, but I like that. And then we'll merge this green with the, yeah. I kind of take this corner out, not unlike the composition we created this morning to frame the painting in a way, you know, the darks. If we could let the darks here frame a little bit of that, that'll be good. Set up some of those darks. Maybe even on this side too. Under surround that white goatee. Okay. We doing okay? Doing okay? All right. So where does that take us? Where does that take us? So now we just laid some of that out in the foreground. It's kind of shadow. What would then our upright foreground in light be? So I was just going to take some of this. And again, if I can, I'd like to not add any white. I might have to. But if I, ooh, that looks dark. That looks dark. Yeah, I want to put this down to cover all the white. And then we can put lighter on top if we want. We don't want these things to be. And again, just kind of almost taking a lot of that away from your eye so that when we're in this area, it's really about his face. Okay. Okay, and then the strongest ground, probably right here. Oh, would that be our good ground? That yellow up front. That's definitely lighter than our trees. It's rich, so that would that help bring that forward? And again, just like those things we saw, we want to think about this like kind of all the way across. All right, so maybe even a touch on that side. Just a touch. Okay, so what we've done, we've set up darks in the foreground, and then we set up brights in our foreground. And then so let's take this bright on the foreground and start walking it back. There's lighter grayer. That's sort of a big journey, huh? So let's not go too fast. Let's take our time. So let's go from here, and as we jump across, that color could go to here. Okay, does that work out for you guys? And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little more gray than I did, and let's go back, and then I'm going to have a cast shadow, dark, and then one more back. So we've got this land, and when I say land, I'm just talking horizontal versus the vertical trees. This land, then we're going here, we've gone here. I want to get one in the back of this, and then two on the other side of there. Yeah, so let's just take a little bit of this, and I'm gonna go back to the painting so I don't forget you guys. And you know how we want to try to separate that as much as we can. If there was a sky hole or something right through there, we would see all the way. Boom. And then we're gonna let some grass hit. And let's go really gray now. You don't mean, yeah, I mean really gray. Really? Yeah. Let's go really gray. Like gray, gray. Yeah, let's go gray. Really gray. Because again, the more distance, the bigger the experience you give them, the bigger changes you give them, the bigger experience they're going to have. So what would that do? Okay, so you see how that kind of separates from the fore? And then if we need to bridge a little bit, just on that back edge, what you could do is just rub a little bit of that in with that wet paint you've already got down there. And that can help bridge that. Then now let's go back. You know, ideally you would do shadows first, but we didn't. So there's that. All right, so let's take this. Let's take this gray here. And then with our darks here, again, can we let that dark merge a little bit, and can we ever? All right, and we're gonna keep going. Right, at the edge of the road, there'll be some shadows because you're seeing the vertical side of the grass instead of the top. How's that looking? Does that look like there's a little more distance now in the green horizontal planes? Did that make sense? Did that make sense to you guys? Again, if you weren't here at the beginning, we got some new equipment and stuff coming. So the camera angles and everything will get better. But in the meantime, let's make do with what we have and march forward. So now, let's do the same thing with the trees. Let's do the same thing with the trees. So we were here with the trees. If we fall off just a little bit from here for back to here, right? But again, if I can get a little more weight to these, that's gonna do is set these apart from that background gray trees and let it seem as give us more distance. Give us the feeling of more distance. Right? And what's the big deal about so what? Distance. Why do you keep going on about distance? Well, I use three things to help me make my value shapes into more viewable paintings. And the first principle is visibility. How visible is it? And that comes from a light against a dark. You can simply observe that by putting a white mark on a white paper or a black mark on a black piece of paper. It's not that you can't find it if you really look, but it's not visible. It doesn't jump off the page. But a white mark on a black paper jumps. A black mark on a white paper jumps. That's visibility. Second principle is depth or dimension, in particular the third dimension. We're going to add something to the two dimensions that we already have, the height and width of the canvas, and we're going to make sure it seems as if there's a third dimension there, depth. And that can be done with form, making sure something seems round, like it has a backside. And it can also be done on a flat surface by saying near to far, which is what we're doing here. Is what we're doing here. Now I want to jump over to the back here. I want that to be a little bit darker, but I also want it to be lighter and weaker than this front tree. Right, and that's how I like to find things, is find, okay, what are the limits to this? Well, I need it to do this. I need it to be this dark, but it can't be darker than. Or I need it lighter than, but it's got to be darker than, right? If you can find what it needs to be darker than and what it needs to be lighter than, dude, you're gonna win that game. You're gonna win that game. It's in the bag. And notice I'm trying to make my marks a little less distinct as we get back. Up front, some clean brushwork, some heavy. All right, but as we go back, quieter and quieter and quieter. So what should happen is the distance between the light and the shadow up close will be far away, and then the light and shadow in the distance won't be so far away from each other. All right, so now I'm again finding the shadow for that background. And a lot of this is just taking any yellow that's in that background and taking it out. Because yellow is an advancing color, man. It advances. Wants to climb that ladder. And so our last trees may just be silhouettes. Don't worry yet. Silhouettes aren't so bad parts. All right, how's that looking? Looking a little foggy, a little hazy. And let's take one more step back here. Let's take one more step. Lighter grayer, lighter grayer, lighter grayer. Right, with little to no yellow. I think we can do lighter than that. I think we can do lighter than that. There we go. All right, let's see. Kind of getting lost in it now. Getting lost in it now. Okay, so those back trees. And now the back trees to the sky. Do I want to jump to purple to that? Do I? That feels pretty good to me. Okay. All right, all right. Gotta remember people are here. Like they say, when you sit down to paint, there's a room full of people. If you start painting and you get into it, one by one they get up and walk out. And as you really get into it, you get up and walk out. And I went missing there for a little while. Sorry guys, I'm back. I'm back. All right. No need to stick me on a milk carton, I don't think. I think I'm back. Okay. Should we do some of that path now? Should we do some of that path? What should we do? What shall we do now? So we've got about 20 minutes left. And yeah, why don't we mix up some orange now and see if we can't get some near to far going in that orange. So there's our burnt umber and yellow ochre. Am I missing a color? Am I missing a color? I don't know. Let's see what we can do with this. Let's see what we can do with this. Wonder if we took, because that purple have just a hint of red in there. There we go. A hint of the burnt umber. There we go. All right, let's see what this does here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try not to, if things are basically the same value, I'm going to try not to cover everything, but just put this next to some of that so that it's another note. Okay, so that's a nice rich color. Then what if we begin to gray that off? Again, can we do it without making just flat paint everywhere, but just kind of another horizontal run across? Okay. What do you think? Lighter grayer? Hmm? Stick with the one that brought you? Oh, sorry guys. There we go. There we go. I need my co-pilot. I need my co-pilot. So what I'm doing here is we're doing some distance, some near to far. I did it in the green earlier. Now with the last few minutes that we're together, we're doing it with the orange, with the road in particular. Letting it walk off into space. And just let it walk way back there. Let's see. There we go. We got to interrupt it a little. We can't just go green, 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 green. I mean, you can, but if you have a little bit of change in there, that's not going to hurt anything. That's not going to hurt anything. All right. Hey, you guys see anything that's bothering you? See anything that's bothering you? Doing some of that near to far. And I really haven't touched his face because I want to be careful when I go in there. And like I said, we did so much today and we've only got a few more minutes left. So what I'm going to do now is get some of those dark accents up front. So what I mean by that, let me get a little smaller too. Maybe a stick or something. So I can make even smaller marks. Make anything smaller here. Oh, I think it's time to head to the sticks. Let's head to the sticks. And where I thought this might come in handy at the base of some of this. Right, again, just to say forward more. Let that join with this coat, the sweater. Okay. And again, it's going to be less as we go back, but show that. Then on the other side of the road as well, the base of that, there'll be some dark. And then we'll need to go back and get some of that dark dark shadow of the road and put it against the, because we don't want the shadow of the green touching the light of the road, right? Even if it's just a dot or so, there needs to be road shadow there, or orange and shadow. There we go. All right. So up a little bit, divide some things up there a bit. Okay. And what about the tree trunks? So in the reference, they look like eucalyptus, and we may make them eucalyptus. But right now, um, I drop even that. I'm just trying to get our near to far going. And again, I don't necessarily cover up everything that's there. But if I can add to it. That, hmm, tie it in together. So like I said, if that green's in shadow, there's gonna have to be a little bit of the dirt in shadow. All right, and then we're gonna weaken that off. Where are you guys? Where are you guys? There you are. There you are. There you are. Let's see. All right, so we're just gonna be together another few minutes. So if you got any questions, go ahead and get those in. There's not a minute or not quite a minute delay between us. A little too thick, but that's all right. If we can get some little things cutting through there. Mm. All right, it's gonna say forward, but then it also says less than that. Okay, and then we go back and back and back. And I also want to try to make conscious effort for these to be smaller. Oops. And it may have to be cut back in there to it. But you see what I'm saying. And then let's get that green and shadow back in there. Green and shadow. Okay, again, so kind of dividing that up a little bit. Boom, boom, boom. Puts back there. Good, good, good. All right. Well, thanks, Susan. Again, it's not the most exciting thing in the world to always watch this, but it's how you get distance into painting. How you get distance into painting. And again, if you'll shift your thought from getting finished to just making beautiful things, beauty again is always its own reward. At least that's what I think. That's what I think. You'll have to do it and find out for yourself. You have to find out for yourself. So a little reminder, we'll be going live in December, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 times a day. 8:30 in the morning, we'll do student feedback. 1:30 in the afternoon, you'll come in and we'll have some studio time. Studio time, still, we're working out a few things here, so you're gonna come to studio time. Just be patient. Be patient. It'll all be worth it. But we don't have that going quite as smooth as we want quite yet. And then in the evening, we look at some masterworks. And if you're able to get all of that, it's a pretty good way to launch yourself to the next level, no matter where you're at. So if you're like me and have a little energy, and if you're like me, you're at home, need something to do, well, let's hang out and do it together. All right, I think that's where I'll stop now, on camera at least. And if there's any questions, we'll get those answered. And if not, then we'll see you tonight at Masterworks. So what's happening? What is happening? All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you. And that looks good. Again, little bitty, right? I mean, what is that, a 6x8 maybe? But were we able to get a bunch of distance? Were we able to make sure these trees were up front and then those trees are way back there? Well, that's what I attempted to do. I hope you can see it. And then I took a run on the road as well and on some of the tree trunks. Need to probably be a little more sensitive with something this size, but there it is. So as always, I hope you got something out of it. And if you can, join me tonight at 8, and we'll do a master's work. And then tomorrow morning, we'll be back in the studio, and we'll have a Zoom class this Friday for you guys in class. Don't forget about our Friday Zoom at 9. All right, well, until then, thank you everybody so much, and keep it beautiful. Bye-bye.